Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am so excited to be here for our fifth season of Where Brains Meet Beauty podcast. And that's just me looking down to make sure I actually hit the record button, which I did. So, this is our episode featuring Shontay Lundy. She is the creator and founder of Black Girl Sunscreen, and we're going to have a lot of fun together. But first, I want to remind everybody that this is our new show format. So you've joined us on YouTube Live for our live streaming. So now our fans can watch each episode get made, which is super fun. And, there's always some little quirks and silly things that happen along the way. So you get to see it all happen in real time. And then if you just love listening to podcasts the classic way on your favorite podcasting app, you'll certainly be able to download this episode and listen on your drive to work or on the train or wherever you like to and whatever you like to do when you listen to podcasts. So I'm so excited here to be with Shontay. Hi, Shontay.
Hi, Jody. How are you?
Welcome to Where Brains Meet Beauty.
Thank you for having me.
So this is our first time ever meeting, and I told you in the pre-show that my team literally demanded that I get you on this show. So I'm really glad that we could make this happen.
Well, thank you, team, for recommending me. I appreciate it.
In the world of where my team sits, you're sort of this like skincare celebrity. So I'm wondering if you like meet that vibe and energy in, many times a day in your work.
Do I meet the vibe and energy? I think it's kind of like once you're around someone, like the energy might come down a little bit, so it doesn't feel like it. But I think at first, maybe they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to interview with you. I'm so excited to be at headquarters." So I think initially, like that's the vibe and energy, but then it kind of like it tapers down. Like, oh, it's just so and so.
Well, I mean, isn't that life, right? When I was younger in my career, and it sounds so ridiculous to say out loud, I really thought CEOs like didn't go to the food store. I just like didn't think that they were ever anything like me. And now that I my friends run businesses, I realize that we all go to the food store, we all go to CVS, but there is this sort of um, this idea in our heads of like who people are until we meet them.
Yeah, this is true. I actually don't go to the supermarket though. I get everything delivered. Everything.
But you order your own food, I guess, right?
It depends.
Okay, well maybe you're just like what I have always imagined in my 20s, right? Like head of a business. Well, do you go into CVS to pick up things ever?
I will go into the stores that Black Girl Sunscreen is distributed in. So, for example, if we are in Target, Ulta, whatever, I will go see the product on display. But in terms of actually shopping, I will throw that, somebody will order it.
Okay, well then you're everything that I ever imagined, Shontay, I have to say.
But what I do order is my own clothes for the most part.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. We can get on a whole tangent here. I actually don't like shopping for clothes at all. So like I would choose not to do it if I could. But I wish I had a passion for it. I used to have a passion for it. It just faded away. But anyway,
Yeah.
let's talk about being an entrepreneur in the beauty industry. This is a career journey show, and my favorite thing to do is go back in time, Shontay, and think about like your 10-year-old self. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be one of three things. The first thing was the President of the United States. The second thing was a violinist. And then the third thing was a race car driver. All three of those things are all very different. But when I think about it, like right now, I think I would be great at all of them.
Okay, so why race car driving?
Oh, I love to drive. I can jump in any car, not even change the mirrors or the seat, and feel really comfortable. I have the need for speed, so I like sports cars. I love it. It gives me like a little adrenaline rush, and it's fun.
I asked because my daughter, who's now 11, I think when she was like 9, she said she wanted to be a race car driver, and I didn't know what to make of it.
Yeah.
Maybe she has a need for speed. I don't know.
I was in Paris, and they had like a Lamborghini, just kind of like rent me, and they take you through this like tunnel, and he's like, okay, you can floor it, and I was like, I floored it so hard. He's like, settle down, but it felt like I was so free, and maybe that's what it is. It's about like you just get this moment of like I'm doing it. So
I am so the opposite. I have no need for speed. Like, I'm wondering, are you a risk taker? Is that sort of your natural state?
my entire life.
Okay, so let's talk about that because being on an entrepreneurial journey, like you literally take risks every day. And I walked into my entrepreneurial journey, not a risk taker, not thinking that I'm a risk taker and realizing, oh, I guess I take risks. Like I just didn't realize it. So when did this like risk taking, other than wanting to be a race car driver, how did that show up for you in in your career?
Now that I think about it, probably when I went off to college. I think it's a risk when you leave your home and you decide like, hey, I'm never coming back, which is a different way of living today, right? Where kids that are 17, 18, or even 21 are going back home after college. I did not. After college, I drove my car down to South Florida, to Miami, and I was entering a master's program and looking for a part-time job and an apartment. And that was a risk that I took. I knew I was going to go to school, but I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know how things were going to turn out. I was in corporate America for 13 years down in South Florida, but I transitioned out of my job and drove across the country to Los Angeles, where I currently reside. No place to live, no plan. That was another risk. So risks have come up throughout my life without me even thinking that it was a risk. It was just me making a big decision and then deciding, like, okay, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's always going to work out. And that's my mind frame, that whatever happens, it will work out.
Well, that's so interesting. I know if we were sitting with like a business coach right now, they would say to you, "Well, Shontay, those weren't risks to you. You didn't. It doesn't sound like you even thought that there was um, any counter to it working out, right? It doesn't sound like you had self doubt. Um, did you have self doubt?
No, but I also don't have that much self doubt, I guess, right? Because I think that one way or another it will work out, whether it's there's pros and cons, right? Like it might not be favorable, but like the day ends and then there's a new day tomorrow. So it's a risk in my mind because not everybody is willing to do that. Not everybody will say, hey, I'm gonna just drive my car to whatever state and not have a place to live. Like that's a risk for many people. Like it's not really stable either, right? Like not knowing like where your money's gonna come from. That's a risk.
Right.
Um,
Shantae, it's so interesting because this podcast is like free therapy for me. And I really feel like the universe like brings me the gas the day like I need to hear these messages. So I am like historically living in self-doubt with like the shadow man following me around, like this shadow of financial insecurity, like, just chasing after me. And it is so fascinating for me to talk to somebody who like moved through the world in these very big situations, right? This isn't like, should I take this class or this class? This is like, let me pick up my life and move several times. It's so fascinating for me to hear someone talk about moving through the world without that doubt. It's almost like you're speaking another language because I just never was able to do that.
Jody, I'm willing to do it again, and again and again, to get experience in different environments, to get experience to different folks. I will say that living here in Los Angeles has, opened up a network of individuals that I didn't really have access to living in South Florida, right? So for me, it's always about what's going to elevate my life, and can I do it? Do I want to do it? Another risk that I'll take is going on vacation myself. And I know many people that are like, okay, isn't that kind of boring? Aren't you afraid something's going to happen? But for me, I feel at peace. I feel like, hey, I'm on my own timeline, I'm on my own schedule, I do what I want to do, and I'm not afraid, but it's a risk because something can happen as a solo traveler. So I don't know. I feel like there are things that I have to muster up the courage for, like even having this conversation. Sometimes you have to pump yourself up, but for these bigger decisions in my life, I feel a little fearless.
I'm very inspired, and I like literally, you have no idea how much I needed to hear this message today. Like I had this like imaginary green button in front of me, and I wanted to press it, right? I wanted to
Oh,
say yes to it, right? I want to say yes to this big idea and like moving closer to my dreams. But like all the old stuff was getting on me, right? I was having these kind of like weird dreams and waking up cranky because all this old self-doubt was like filling my headspace and my energy, but my joy was saying, go for it, Jody. Like this is the way to the dream. So I did press the green button, but I had to like, this is a proverbial green button, but I had to talk myself into it, right? So it's so magical for me to listen to somebody who moves through the world without that shadow of self-doubt. And, of course there's, some things go the way you want, some things don't, but it's this adventure that's so important, right? This is living.
100%, right? Because we're only here one time. So hopefully we can, most people think you're here one time, right? I think that we're here one time. So how are you going to do it that time that you are here? Are you doing something that's fulfilling? Are you doing something that is giving you joy? And that's how I think about my daily life. Not even just the impact that I'm having, but my day to day. Am I happy about what I'm doing, who I'm talking to, what I look like? I mean, all of it.
Well, let's go back to corporate America on the topic of
Yeah.
am I happy? So, when you drove south, you found a job. What was your dream or your goal for that time of your life? Like, what did you channel in that moment?
Getting a full-time job with benefits. And it's hard, right? Especially if you go into a 4-year college degree and not knowing what you want. My major was elementary education for the first 2 years, and then I switched to business economics. And with business, coming out with a business degree was so broad, so I could have really applied for anywhere. And I was running into a wall because I didn't have the experience. I had the education, but I didn't have the hands-on experience. So I just wanted to get on with a company that was going to offer me somewhat of a reasonable salary as well as benefits. And I didn't really understand the concept of like work your way up. Um, and that's what this company taught me. It was about pay your dues, work extremely hard, be better than anyone else, sell better than anyone else, provide great customer service like no other, as if you were the customer. And your success will come. And that's how my corporate has landed a hand to where I am today. Because I think that creating a product like Black Girl Sunscreen is vastly different than operating a business.
So, when you were at this first job, were there people there who were actually mentoring you and coaching you in these skills, or did you just sort of have to like learn this through osmosis?
It was extremely competitive. So you would find some people that were authentic and some people that were low key kind of fake. And you kind of had to figure out who was legit, but really focus on yourself. So in that space, I didn't really have mentorship until I got to a certain level, and they became more of my peers than a mentor, and we were kind of riding the wave together.
When I had my first job out of college, um, I was so what's the right word? Bratty, I guess. Like I thought it was like so much smarter than these people who have been in advertising, 30 years, right? And they should be listening to me. And, I was like the lowest on the totem pole. I was like making copies of videos, that was like my job. But I like had this like inflated sense of self with the self-doubt. Like I could just imagine what I was like back then. So, moving through life, being a bulldozer, thinking that I know better than everybody else, but secretly being like full of doubt, and really motivated by fear. It's so fascinating for me to hear you talk about like this first job for you in corporate America, where you were like looking around you, like, I guess positioning yourself for growth and success. Did you find a lot of young people who were able to see what you were seeing and take advantage of it?
Um, yes, but it was a question of whether they took advantage or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because not everyone, some people are okay with where they're at. right? Not everybody is a founder, creator, CEO, or even in middle management. And that's okay with them. So for the ones that understood what it took to get to the top and wanted to make six figures or whatever their goal was, they definitely were on. Like, listen, I'm not actually going to give you the resource because you're my competitor, and you're going to be in the conversation for promotion.
Shontay, I remember seeing this guy, he'll remain nameless, who just had that ambition. Like, it was like, you could see it, you could smell it. Like, he wanted to be the CEO of this company someday. He was, my age, but like, he's like early 20s, but you can just see it. And I used to watch him, because my desk was like near the aisle of the hallway, walk back and forth chasing after like whoever was like the most senior person on his account. And I'd be like, look at him, he's like following around so-and-so. But now I look back, I'm like, of course he was doing that, because that was the path, right? Like, literally walk in their shoes, like follow their steps. And now, of course, he is the CEO of this like global giant corporation, right? He literally followed the leader, right? And it's fascinating to me to talk to you and like watch someone like him. Like, they figured it out. He figured it out, and you figured it out. And there's so many more people, I think, like me, that were just clueless and like stuck in their own head. So I think that, a lot of young people can do this, right? They can say, I want to learn here. I want to take this ambition and do something productive with it. But I have to actually follow a leader. I have to see how they're doing it. I have to learn from them.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that I think of when you say that. So I am so grateful for the opportunity that I was given in that corporate space, because again, it's lended me a hand to create this foundation and this structure that I have here at Black Girl Sunscreen. Understanding how departments should commingle, should collaborate, understanding what even departments should do, knowing how to maybe structure a sales team and how to, write goals and implement them. What is company culture? What's not? How to watch out for HR issues, right? But at the same time, coming out of that corporate space, because I think that some corporations, big ones, actually tried to mold the individual to how they want them to be. Now, here at Black Girl Sunscreen, I have blossomed into Shontay, and I'm not in this space or in four walls where someone is telling me like, hey, you have to wear pantyhose with your skirt because this is our dress code, and then this is how we want you to be perceived. It's professional. Hey, you have to use this vernacular because this is how our company, this is how we speak, and this is how we want you to be viewed. So transitioning out has allowed me to really step into my own. I think it's great to have people to look up to, but still remain yourself.
Yes, I mean, as that's such an important point. My whole entrepreneurial journey has been because I wanted to be me, right? And I didn't even know like the full extent of who I was back then. It's been 15 years of running my own business. So 15 years ago, I just wanted to actually like have a job where I could be the mom I wanted to be, because I wasn't seeing that around me. Now I'm like, I'm weird, and like that's okay. And the culture of my business invites that in and nurtures it in other people, and it creates great ROI for our clients. So like, it's wonderful, but like, I couldn't actually be me if I like followed what every other agency owner was doing 15 years ago, which was all about, in my like interpretation of it, like having fancy furniture. Like that's how I summarize it. If you were a cool agency, you had fancy furniture in the lobby and in the offices. And I couldn't afford fancy furniture, so I was at a WeWork, right? And that's like the best I could do. That was a big deal, back then. But now I make like, I used to say, well, we're not cool, right? Like my agency, like we're weird, we're not cool. And now I feel like we made our own coolness.
So I really want to understand, what is weird to you? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like growing up in this industry in New York, it was all about like the fancy photographers and fashion and like a lot of BS, like plenty of BS, and spending clients' money frivolously.
Yeah.
And wearing certain labels of clothes and like things that I just wasn't interested in, and the fancy furniture. So that was cool. And weird is me being very vulnerable. Like like I love being vulnerable. I feel like the most myself when I'm being like truly honest with the world, even if it's not a favorable theme. Talking about the fear of financial insecurity, which is like so real for entrepreneurs, but I feel like people really don't want to talk about it, but it's like the worst feeling. Um, Being vulnerable about how hard it is to like, reach your goals and your dreams, and like the crying, like that I've had and all that stuff. So that is really actually weird in this like agency world that I grew up in. But it's served me well now that I actually embrace it.
Got it. Yeah, I don't think you're weird. I think it's
Um,
pretty normal,
well, maybe
actually.
now it's normal, but like,
Yeah.
if I think a lot of these like old rules, thankfully, this entrepreneurial like the big entrepreneurial push that's happened in the past 10 years in our industry is so changed so much, right? Like I used to go to these events in our industry and I was like the outsider, and there was the click from this corporation, the click from that corporation, right? And I never worked at these big companies. I didn't have friends in those companies. I literally would stand by myself at these events and look and see like, how can I introduce myself to somebody when they're all in a clique? Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't, you actually, like, I've Googled this, you can't go to an event and like enter a group of like 6 or 8 people and introduce yourself. It's like not possible. You have to look for the other person standing alone. Like, and that's what I did. And I had to like work up the courage to do it, literally take a deep breath before I walked into these rooms and say like, I have to go find someone who's alone. And I would just go up to them and introduce myself. But it had like, I would have like tingles in my arms because it's so nerve wracking. Right. So that's another like reason why I felt, I guess, weird, right? I wasn't part of like the culture of the industry.
I ask myself this question daily. Does it move the needle to be invited to certain events and to be friends with certain people? Or do I keep my head down, work, and accomplish my goals? Does that make me weird? I'm still trying to figure it out,
I don't think
right?
it makes you weird, but it's saying like, I'm not willing to just play the game for the sake of playing the game. Right. Because that's what happens, right? Like I have to, people go to be seen, like literally, like people buy tickets to these really expensive events just to be there, like just to have
Mm-hmm.
a physical presence so people can say, so and so is there, like there. And for some people, I guess, like if you're in sales, like there probably is a value to that. Like you have to stay top of mind. In other places it might not be relevant, but there is a game that's like literally being rewritten, and then maybe it's going to be like a lot of different games. There used to be only one, right? Like when I was 20, there was one game in this industry. And maybe by you saying like, well, no, I'm actually going to curate and edit like how I spend my time to what's
Mm-hmm.
going to serve me best, then you're writing the rules of a new game. And there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be looking towards you saying, I want to do it that way because this way isn't serving me. I actually used to say to my business coach, he'd like, go and network. I'm like, I just want to go home and put my PJs on and watch The Real Housewives. Like, this is all I want to be doing. Right. So I
Or
found a way to do this and still watch The Real Housewives in my PJs.
that's great. Yeah, I just think about the way that I guess suits me, right? And in the business, the livelihood of the 16 individuals that are passionate about Black Girl Sunscreen. That's the best way for me.
I love that. Well, let's talk about, I want to hear about your breakaway from corporate America, right? Because you told me you got back in the car and you drove to LA. What was like that moment or that period in time where you just said, like, I'm ready for something new?
Where I felt like when I felt like I was just tapped out in that space, and you get that feeling. Sometimes you can kind of march through it, and then sometimes it's just like, okay, like today's the last day, and I had my last day, and I was in my loft apartment, and I said, okay, so what's next? And it's time to go to Los Angeles. I packed my car and put my bulldog in the front seat and took 3 days to get to the West Coast. Stayed with a friend for 2 weeks and found an apartment. And I gave myself only the 2 weeks to stay with her because I didn't want to feel like I was a burden. And it was important that I, stayed on the path of this is what I need to do. And that was the moment where I felt like, all right, it's LA. There's nothing else that can be done here in South Florida. And I just wanted to feel free. I wanted to get off of this structured schedule, right? Going from kindergarten to grad school, 18 years of school, and then another 12 years in the corporate space. It was all of my life that I knew that was answering to someone and to being on a early ass schedule from like 6 a.m. till 10 o'clock at night. I was in extracurriculum activities in high school and college. In the corporate space, I sat on different organizations, and it always took up more than the normal coursework. So for me to come to the West Coast, it just felt invigorating. I had no job, I had no plan. I just did yoga and hiked every day for 4 months.
It sounds like a dream. I'm curious, did you ever have that like shadow of financial insecurity following you during that time period?
No, because I knew that I would have to enter the workforce again. But it does feel good just to kind of do nothing and to dream. And, I say dream because a dream in my mind doesn't always come true. It's okay for it just to be idle and just to be a thought, right? And that's what I was doing during those 4 months. And during the 4 months, I came up with Black Girl Sunscreen, but actually implemented it. So that's no longer a dream to me, right? But that time off gave me the ability to even think of something, right? Because when I was caught up in corporate and in this rat race, I didn't have the capacity to think outside of my day to day. So I am so thankful for just that time frame of the transition, because without it, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, that's why we all need to take breaks. Like we have to, right? Where our bodies and our brains, our hearts need a break, and then we can be more creative, right, and inspired.
Yeah, but my break was didn't have a timeline. When we
Hmm.
go on vacation, it's kind of like, okay, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever. There's always a time where we have to come back and we're going to get back into our groove of things. My break was, I didn't necessarily have a timeline. I knew eventually, but when was that eventually? And I think that's what really allowed me to think creatively, because I didn't feel pressed or rushed to meet a timeline, or, oh my gosh, I got to get this thought out because I go back to work on Monday.
Yeah, I'm actually going on vacation on Friday. That's exactly how I feel. Like, okay, I'm going to leave on Friday. I come back on Monday, right? So there's this clock ticking, right? Like
Yeah.
I want to jam in as much fun and silliness as possible, right before I'm back in this seat again. I want to switch gears a little bit because in our pre-show, you told me that CEO is a big. You said big for me, right? You choose not to have that title. I'm curious why.
Oh, because I'm a fun person, I think, and I like the words creator and founder and CEO. The word CEO. This is what it reminds me of. And this is no shade to you, or don't feel attacked. Okay, CEO reminds me of this pose right here. You know how when people take that pose and their arms are crossed, right? And that's so not me. I feel like I'm pretty approachable. I'm really silly. And I think I'm not as like, I don't look like your typical CEO, and that's the cool part about who we are today. Um, we recently got a trademark, Black Girl Sunscreen, our business name, and it was a big deal because we were supposed to get it in 5 years. We got it into our name
Wow.
is descriptive, right? And the post went viral. It's at like 149,000 likes on Shontay's personal page, which I have about, I don't know, 12,000 followers. So it's reached 9 million accounts. And my team and I, we were really analyzing this post because we wanted to understand the mechanics behind it. Why did it go viral? What's going on? And what we came up with was, okay, Shontay, you have maybe these long nails, you got on your kind of cool sunglasses, you got this big hair, and your tongue is out, you're making a silly face, and you just don't look like the typical CEO, right? And when they said that, I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm that, but it just doesn't work for me. So I say that CEO is big because I don't see myself as a CEO. I see myself as this founder and this creator of this product that is now running a business.
Okay, so this it's like incredible that we're talking today. I actually used to not use CEO. For the same reasons. I was founder and creative director. I'm like, that's who I am. In my soul, I'm just like creative, and I'm, out in outer space thinking of
Yep.
ideas. um, but then my COO said, no, I need you to be the CEO. So it's fine, whatever she wants, whatever Alini wants, Alini gets. Okay, my last question for you before we move on to what we call our snack break. This idea of growing a business, for me, the best way to describe it is a seduction. Like, I love my work. I love, growing these ideas and seeing my dreams come true. But once I get a little taste for that success, or what I just define as success, I want more, like sugar. Like, I need more and more and more. So it's seductive. And the seduction is part great because it means I love my job, right? If I didn't love my job, I certainly would not be seduced by it. But then, there's other things that I like to do in my time. And when you're kind of, really in that seduction, you can kind of lose sight of these other things. So I'm just curious if that word resonates for you at all in your own entrepreneurial journey. And if it does, how you manage that seduction.
Well, I'm completely seduced and I'm filled with lust because I spend all of my time with Black Girl Sunscreen, massaging it, growing it, and telling it little secrets day in and day out. So I love that you introduced the word seduction because I never ever thought about it that way at all. I felt like I was consumed. But now my voice has even changed because I'm like, ooh, you know what? Don't judge me if I really love what I'm doing and I feel fulfilled. I feel like I can actually leave this planet today and feel accomplished. That's how seduced I am by Black Girl Sunscreen.
Um, I love your interpretation of this. And I'm so grateful that we work in businesses where we, there's so much joy in the everyday that, like, the seduction is, warranted and wanted, right? Like, imagine, I mean, we've both been there. We're having jobs where we didn't feel fulfilled and didn't feel joy. That I was not seduced by those jobs.
No, this is sexy too. I mean, don't you want to feel sexy? Doesn't everyone want to feel attractive? And it for me, the best part of this is being able to give a livelihood to people, right? That are here in the community that believe in what we're doing. Seeing something grow, like corporate culture, our environment is also very important. Helping people grow within their personal space, even if they're here for a short time. Black Girl Sunscreen making an impact on their lives and then making an impact on Black Girl Sunscreen. I love everything about it. And if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do this at the level that I'm doing it at. The question is, will I tap out? Eventually, right? But right now I'm going, my need for speed is here.
Oh, I love it how you just brought this so full circle. Well, that actually concludes our podcast portion of our show. So I want to thank you so much, Shontay, for sharing your wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you, Jody.
And for our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this interview. Please subscribe to our series on your favorite podcast app. And for updates about the show, follow us on Instagram at Where Brains Meet Beauty Podcast. Okay, Shontay, it's time for a snack break, a Where Brains Meet Beauty snack break. Okay, I'm thrilled to be here with Shontay Lundy. She's a founder and creator of Black Girl Sunscreen. Okay, Shontay, we have a game for you. We were peeking around on your Instagram and we noticed that you obviously have a passion for the color yellow. It's all over the place in your apparel, in your accessories, in your set design. So we wanted to play a fun game with you. We're calling it This or That Yellow Edition. All you have to do is pick your favorite. It's really simple. Totally fun. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
So, well, first of all, why yellow?
Because the sun.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so Shontay, are you ready?
Yes, I'm excited.
Okay, let's go. Okay, yellow Ferrari or yellow bug?
Bug.
Oh wait, I'm so surprised. I thought you picked the fast car.
Yeah, but the bug is cool. I think I'm cool.
Yeah, it is super cute. Okay,
Yeah.
Next choices. Yellow tulips or yellow roses?
Those roses look beautiful, and I love roses.
Okay. Yellow diamonds or yellow gold?
Both. I love jewelry. My gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh
Oh,
my
I like
gosh.
this
This
one.
is so
Okay, a
hard.
yellow pantsuit, like all, one tone, or a yellow dress?
Dress, because I love dresses.
Yellow bag or yellow heels?
Bag.
Wait, why bag?
Just the picture looked it looks cuter than the shoes.
Got it. Okay. Yellow nails or yellow eyeshadow?
The eyeshadow, because it looks great on my complexion.
Oh, good one. Lemons or bananas?
Okay, so I only like bananas on the first day, because when it gets too soft, I'm like gross. I have lemon trees at my house, so I'm always making my tea with fresh lemons. So I'm gonna go with lemons on this one.
Oh, that's so nice and evocative that you have a lemon tree.
And an orange tree and a peach tree. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I don't get that in New Jersey, So this is very exciting to hear. Okay, yellow Starburst or yellow M&Ms?
All right, so I'm going to bring your full circle moment back to weird. So if you eat yellow Starburst, you are weird. So we're going to go with yellow M&Ms.
So yellow Starburst in like elementary school, if you ate them, you were weird.
Yes. Nope, they're always the last eaten Starburst. You should take a poll, by the way, to see if I'm right.
Yeah, I mean the pink are delicious. The pink
It's
Starburst.
number one.
Okay, thanks for playing this or that. Yay.
I was so nervous on what game you were going to give me. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to test my knowledge on SPF levels and emollients and things like that.
Well, I mean, if we want to have another show where we talk about the challenges of the sunscreen monograph and ingredients, we can do that another time. But we like to keep it career and personality focused here. Okay, so our last part of our snack break are questions from fans. So we got a lot of questions from fans on Instagram. I actually have a whole bunch rolling in from YouTube. So I'm going to go to our YouTube question first because it's such a good question.
Okay.
How do you deal with fake people?
You know they're fake and you keep them at a distance. You can tell right away for the most part. And then you kind of you realize that they're fake by just the things that they may do. But for me, it's not about making enemies, but more of an ally, and keeping the people closest to me just really close. Like I actually don't believe keeping your enemies closer. I believe in keeping the people that actually support you closest. So the ones that appear to not be authentic and maybe have an alternative motive, you recognize that and you keep them at bay.
Right. Okay. And then the second part of this question, it's very different. How do you invest in mentorship? Like, how do you make that a part of your life? Black Girl Sunscreen.
Yes. So I actually speak about not having a mentor, right? Like I didn't really have a mentor in the corporate space. So currently and sometimes I speak in third person. So that's actually weird about Shontay. Shontay hosts mentorships calls every Tuesday and Thursday. And the way that you can get on my calendar is by sending an email to contact@blackgirlsunscreen.com. And I allocate 30 minutes, 45 minutes sometimes, depending on the conversation, to anyone that has questions, thoughts, wants to bounce ideas off of somebody that is unbiased or just wants to listen. When I was coming up, I didn't have anyone to speak to in terms of what to do. There's no blueprint, there's no black print, there's no direction really. And it's important to me that people feel like they can reach out to someone that they feel like has done something or is doing something that they currently want to do. So it's not a program, like it's not a structured program, but my conversations are complimentary, and I commit to them. So if you're on the calendar for 5:30 or 5:45, I'm going to call you, and I could be, on the way from my office to my house. You're going to get that call.
So you're saying random people can schedule time with you?
Yeah.
That's so cool. When did you start that?
I've been doing it for a long time, actually, where someone could say, "Oh my gosh, do you have a few minutes to chat?" And I'm like, "Sure." Just send a note to my assistant, and she'll put you on the calendar. So now we just have it structured on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it's not a rolled out program yet because I don't know why I haven't started it. But I just want, to be a resource and to be an ally. We don't have to be friends, but know that there is someone that can tell you, like, hey, this is how you should probably handle a PO, or here's how you should maybe think about, your strategy on manufacturers and 3PLs, or here's maybe the amount of money you're going to need to start this. Like, there's a lot of things that go through people's minds and have questions for me. So
I think after this episode going live, a lot of leaders are going to want to borrow this idea from you. It never occurred to me just to have like fixed blocks of time. I just meet people and we chat, but I love the idea of like making a commitment to it.
yeah, it also allows me to hear other struggles, or somebody that can provide insight that I never even thought could provide insight. And then I think that they become brand ambassadors for you. Right, and that's the selfish way of thinking, because I've never started to have these conversations with any kind of like, this is what I'm getting out of it. But if somebody literally sends an email and says, hey, I want to talk to Shontay about A, B, C, and D, Shontay calls, that's an ally for life.
That's amazing. Okay, we have time for one more question before we close
Sure.
out for today. This one came from Instagram. What's one piece of advice you'd give your 20-year-old self?
So I talked about being fearless, and I have a really good story about when I was 10, not about when I was 20, but pretty much I, ran off a stage crying because I played the violin, and it was supposed to be a duet, but the girl called out sick that day, of course. It was like our holiday program. So it ended up being solo, which was me, and I ran off the stage crying because I pretended like I just forgot the word, the notes in the song, because it was done with no music. That's a big deal, right? Because you got to memorize the piece. And when I got off the stage crying, my music teacher, her name is Mrs. Petroncola, she told me, Shontay, you've been practicing for this all summer, all year. You know this music inside and out. And I had to reach inside of me, literally. At the end of the program, she puts me back on stage, and I played that piece flawlessly, right? So I had to muster up the courage and say, Shontay, you can do this. You know it. So my advice isn't to my 20-year-old self. It is to my adult self, my future self, to remind myself that I can do this.
My heart is going nuts. This is amazing. And what an amazing teacher to turn to you and say this, right? Like to grab that moment for a young kid and put them back on the stage because she had faith in you, right? And all you needed to do is have faith in yourself. And you're really actually giving that back to people when they call you for these phone calls.
And sometimes it just takes a 20-minute boost, a reminder, a somewhat validation that you're on the right track. Mistakes will be had. Think about it this way. Hey, it's just my opinion. You don't have to take it, because I know for me, opinions were hard to listen to, but you got to clear out that noise.
Shontay, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us on this episode and in our snack break. This is such a fun show for me. I hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
I sure did. Thank you.
And for our fans, I want you to know I don't do this alone. I want to thank the team behind the scenes who makes this happen. So that's Kiwi, our director, Esperanza, our producer, Molly on social media, Nico, our sound engineer. This is an amazing show. We love putting it together for you. And I also want to just do a little housekeeping. We are now booking guests for our fourth quarter theme, which is health. So if our listeners want to message me on Instagram at Where Brains Meet Beauty Podcast, or on LinkedIn at Jody Katz, if you have fan suggestions, we're all ears. You can also email them at production@beastbeauty.com. Thanks, everybody.